Happy President's Day to each and every one of you. I am Brett Winterble. I'll be sitting in for Laura Ingraham today, keeping you all company for the next few hours. Have some great guests lined up later on in the show. But, you know, this program really needs to be about not just the country, not just about the presidents, but about you. It's a fully participatory conversation. And I want to hear from you at 855-40-LAURA, 855-405-2872. Don't forget to follow Laura on Twitter at Ingraham Engel. And be sure to check the website. I go every single day, lifezet.com, lifezet.com. Lots of great stories there. And this was an unbelievably full weekend, starting with the continuing fallout last week from the now famous President Trump 45 smackdown of the media right to their faces. It was brilliant. Into this weekend's rally on Saturday after the evening in Melbourne, Florida. And I got to tell you something. It was remarkable to see the left wing's heads explode as President Trump hadn't missed a beat from when he had been on the campaign trail. The ability to connect with people, the ability to understand the concerns that the American people have and speak to those concerns and address those concerns. And yeah, of course, right on cue, the leftist press with their template and their ideology has to start cueing in on things that upset them. The recitation of the Lord's Prayer by First Lady Melania Trump, the bringing on stage by President Trump of an ordinary sort of typical deplorable who came up on stage, shared the space with him, shared his enthusiasm with the crowd, and of course that's all wrong. See, whenever it's about regular people, people like you, people like me, it's wrong. When it's about the elites, right? George and Amal Clooney having a baby, the Oscars, a protest, Beyonce at the Grammys, then it's good. Then it's acceptable. When it's about people, like regular, ordinary people, or as I like to say, and I stole it from Mike Rowe a long time ago, the people who take their showers after they get home from work rather than the people who take a shower before they go to work, when it's about regular, productive people, it's no good. But the beauty is the fact that the press is on the wrong side of history and on the wrong side of the American spirit. I'm Brett Winterble. Normally, you will hear me in San Diego, California, AM 760 KFMB. I do afternoon drive there from 2 to 6 p.m. I want to hear from you at 855-40-LAURA, 855-405-2872. On this President's Day that the left has declared not my President's Day. That's right. It's not my President's Day. Just like Thursday, Friday, I lost track of it, was a day without an immigrant. I think it was on Thursday, actually. A day without an immigrant. We're going to have a day where immigrants don't go to work, and they send a message to the rest of the country that you see America. Now you'll see the value of the immigrant. Now you'll see what it is when you don't have us in the workforce, when we're not there wiping down your tables, when we're not there working on the assembly line, when we're not there cooking and cleaning. Oh, wait, that's the narrative that the left forms, because you and I know full well that immigrants do more than menial labor in America. Immigrants are also professionals. They're bankers, they're investments, they're investors. They are people who work in the technology sectors. They're people that work in the entertainment sector. The immigrants in this country are the people who are doing any number of things and toiling silently like the rest of the American people are. See, the left loves to split the idea of illegal immigration and legal immigration when it suits their needs in an election year. But when it comes to taking on the great American idea, they will conflate the two, mash them up, and put them side by side and cheek by jowl. There is no difference between an MS-13 lawbreaker who comes across the border illegally and somebody who patiently waited for their papers to come in the Philippines, in Japan, in South Korea, in the Congo, in Eastern Europe. They're exactly the same in their mind. And this is the fundamental disconnect the left has with American values. Understand, this is the fundamental break point, the fundamental breakdown with American values. The left in our country want it to be about identity, Now think about this. Think about all the ways people on the political left will slice and dice identity for their purposes. Uh, Ethnic identity, racial identity, gender identity. Then they'll get into how you identify inside the gender identity dynamic, your economic identity. They're a party without ideas. They're a party who peddles grievances. See, America is not a nation of immigrants. It is a nation, I believe, made stronger by the presence of legal immigrants who immigrated in an orderly fashion into the United States. We're not a country of gate crashers. We're a country of people who understood what it meant to take the shot and to come here. The miracle that America is, if you want to look at it from the perspective of the immigrant contribution, is in the immigrant communities that emigrated here legally, bringing their work ethic with them. These are not people who came into the United States originally from England and Scotland and Ireland and Wales and York and all of that. It is a nation made up of people who came generation after generation from different parts of the world who wanted to come to the United States to work here. Nobody who got off a boat in 1850 from Tipperary in New York City would have gotten off an airliner in 2009 and immediately sought out an Obama phone. It's just not what they wanted. They understood, coming from a hard scrabble life, that you had to work or you had to die. That was it. Those were your two choices: work to eat or don't work and die. And so the immigrant ethic, the ethos that America tapped into, that became the engine of our economy for such a long period of time, was the immigrant work ethic. It's not the immigrant identity. It's not who you start out as, it's who you finish up as. And I want you to think maybe about a parent, a grandparent, a great-grandparent, or somebody even further down the line, maybe a spouse, somebody who came to this country in a legal and orderly way to become a part of what America offers. What President Trump is envisioning as the President of the United States is a welcoming place for people who wish to come here to build America up. Think about this. This weekend we saw the death of Norma McCorvey, right? The lead plaintiff in Roe versus Wade, the gateway to abortion in the 1970s. The decision that led to the erasure of some 40 million human beings, but more specifically, 40 million Americans who are not now at the table with us, who are not now at the workplace with us. That is a tremendous hole that's been blown in the American fabric, made possible by the courts. The proper use of legal immigration, the proper application of legal immigration can be the step towards restoring the strength in this country, the strength in this economy, where we bring people in who want to not just be a part of the great thing that is to be an American, but rather to help build this great nation that is America. The left are going to be out in the streets today protesting and marching and carrying on. Not my president, not my president, not my president. The question I would have for people on the left within the sound of my voice, is it still your country? Do you stand for your country? Do you want to see your country strengthened or hobbled by an internal rift based along phony identity constructs rather than the strength, the grace, and the blessings we have as a nation? We'll take your thoughts on that. A couple of lines open. 855-40-LAURA, 855-405-2872. I'm Brett Winterble. It's It's Brett Winterble sitting in for Laura Ingraham on your healthy radio addiction.
Everybody knows that February is the shortest month of the year. But at Podcast One, we aren't taking any breaks. We've got a boatload of new shows coming your way this month. Like 2 from Forbes, Under 30, and The List, or Post-Mortem with Mick Garris, and Clipcast, the official, unofficial podcast of the LA Clippers. But we're not done. Still to come this month, The Raven Effect from pro wrestler Raven, a little bit of Growing the Dynasty with Jeff and Jessica Robertson, plus in upcoming weeks, shows from Kim Zolciak, Dina Tori Spelling, The Retronauts, and many more. To get more details, go to podcastone.com now, podcastone.com.
It is your healthy radio addiction, Brett Winterble, in for Laura Ingraham. 855-40-LAURA, 855-405-2872. I think we're faced with a fundamental question, right? I think we can figure out where people are on this ideological debate, this argument about border security, bringing immigrants in, building the country back, making America great again, by answering one simple question. And if you can answer this question in an affirmative way, you know where you stand on the spectrum, the political spectrum. What is it that you love about America? Now, I can be asked that question, and I can say immediately what it is. It's the freedom, the liberty, the opportunity, things like that. But so many on the left, the people who want to go and march with the Day Without an Immigrant, the people who want to come out and do the Not My President March, or the Women's March, or the Day Without a Woman March coming up in March, ironically enough, that want to wear silly hats and listen to Madonna as she talks about blowing up the White House, all of that. They are hard-pressed to say what they love about America. I'm sure everyone in the sound of my voice has been in a relationship with somebody, a close personal relationship, a dating relationship, where you've had a person who would tell you they cared for you, would tell you they loved you, would tell you that they wanted to be with you. And then each day they would have something about you they were trying to change. I love you, but you're fat. I love you, but you don't wear the right clothes. I love you, but. People on the political left who traffic in identity politics are the same people who will say, well, I love America, but we have a history of slavery. I love America, and we need to do reparations because of our history of slavery. I love America, and we interned the Japanese, and we need to do something. No. What do you love about America? That's the question that needs to be asked to anybody looking to expatriate out of a country to the United States, migrate to the United States, seek refuge in the United States. Okay, I get it. You're coming from Somalia. You're coming from Sudan. You're coming from one of what I call the Terror 7 conference countries. Why are you coming here? Because if you're just coming here for free stuff, not freedom, but free stuff, if you're coming here for the hookup and you don't really like us and you view us as a nation of saps and dupes, we don't need that. Because we have American-born losers around this country. Look at these marches. You can see it from Linda Sarsour all the way down, right? These activists who want to take this country apart. We got plenty of those already right here. I don't need to bring somebody in from Yemen who wants to take America down. I don't need to bring somebody in from England or Germany. I wouldn't want Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, to emigrate to the United States. He hates the United States. He's trying to push the movement to uninvite President Trump on a state visit to England as we speak. And he's held up as this great, quote, peacemaker and bridge builder. He's not a bridge builder. He's a divider. He's a typical British leftist who hates Western civilization, hates England, hates the United States, and our shared values. The question we have to ask people on the left is your hatred for Donald Trump so much that it bleeds into your hatred for America, or is your hatred of President Trump merely a manifestation of the illness of American hate? 855-40-LAURA, 855-405-2872. Let's talk to Hannah in beautiful Michigan. Hello, Hannah. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you? Thanks for taking my call.
I'm doing well. Thank you for calling.
You're welcome. I wanted to say very well said, and I wanted to comment about the Day Without Immigrants that happened last week. It was going around in my head last week when this was happening that my grandparents were immigrants from Ukraine. My father was born in an internment camp after World War II in Germany. They had lost everything, lost their home. And when they migrated to America, I'd have to believe that if my grandparents were still around, there's no way that they would have not shown up for work last week on the Day Without Immigrants, because they were proud to be here, proud to have a home, and they worked as janitors. They didn't speak a word of English, but they were proud to do it, and that there's no way that they would have not gone to work because they were just too proud to be here.
You know what's amazing about it, Hannah, is we have this idealized idea of people who emigrated to the United States. And I think, we think, well, they just came here for the opportunity to do these things. No, it was hard to leave these countries, these cultures that you had known your entire life, and to come here and take a shot. I mean, it was practically a moonshot when you think about it. You don't know where you're going. You don't know what you're going to end up with, but you know it's got to be better than where you are right now. And you're willing to make that bet, not just for your better life, but for your children and like you, Hannah, your grandchildren down the road. I just got to make landfall, and I can get my kids and my grandkids to a better place that's not going to be beset by ethnic strife, identity strife, and things like that. And that's the real blessing of what they did. It wasn't so much they were coming here for some awesome job. They were just trying to get here to be a part of it, to open the door for you and for me and for other people. And that's the magic of it. I appreciate the call, Hannah. I do. And I thank God that your grandparents had the ability to come here and to become a part of what America is, because it's that not give up, that never giving up, that stick-to-itiveness that we have to respect for people who came here. They literally risked everything. In some cases, got to the United States with just a couple of bucks in their pocket and had only their labor, their potential to offer people. And remember, that was a saturated market. So you knew you were going to be taking a job for low pay and long toil, but you were playing a longer game that eventually it was going to pay off for you and your future generations. The question I have for people who have come here or whose ancestors came here was, have you ever thought about saying thank you to this nation that brought them in, that brought you in, rather than agitating and protesting in the streets? What would happen if we had a day without a business owner, a day without a capitalist? Could you imagine the impact then? We'll talk about it. We'll explore it straight ahead. Plus your phone calls, 855-40-LAURA. I'm Brett Winterble. It's the Laura Ingraham Show on your healthy radio addiction. I am Brett Winterble, sitting in for Laura Ingraham, your healthy radio addiction on the Laura Ingraham Show. 855-40-LAURA, 855-405-2872. Now, I'm here in California. I'm out in San Diego. I do the afternoon drive show from 2 to 6 on 760 KFMB. And as you know, up north of where we're sitting is the Oroville Dam, which got a lot of news coverage, especially late last week, as a new band of storms was coming in and people were worried about Oroville, California, suffering the ravages of the spillway collapsing, or in maybe some cases the dam itself collapsing. A lot of people were very nervous, and you can understand that. I mean, the idea of a 70-foot high wall of water coming rushing down 30 miles, wiping out everything in front of it is the stuff of, the San Andreas movie, right? Horror movies that we all see, disaster movies. Well, our governor is Jerry Brown, and he is, if there were ever to be a governor that could be put on trial for civic malpractice, I think it would be Jerry Brown. I think he would be the great test case. Well, he has spent his entire time as governor of the state of California, or as some call it, Corruptifornia, arguing for this $100 billion, $200 billion, $300 billion high-speed train from San Diego to San Francisco that nobody wants to use. Hasn't spent money to fix the dams, hasn't spent money to fix infrastructure. We're sitting on a nearly a $500 billion deficit when it comes to the CalPERS retirement fund out here in California. our Caltrans budget to pave roads, to fix potholes. That hasn't been funded. You saw what happened on Friday night in L.A. as sinkholes swallowed cars of the rich and beautiful in Studio City. Well, I want you to get a load of this from Tom Lifson over at The American Thinker. To the surprise of absolutely no one familiar with the ways of Corruptifornia, the rail line is back in the news. Richard Bloom, the husband of Senator Dianne Feinstein, that's right, D for yourself, was awarded a nearly $1 billion contract for the first phase of the so-called high-speed rail line to San Francisco and Los Angeles. Can you imagine that? We're not fixing the dams. We're not repairing the infrastructure. But we're handing out big, fat $1 billion paydays to the spouses of senators. The same senators who will kvetch and whine and moan and complain about evil Donald Trump and what he's done with the Russians, and we need an investigation and an impeachment, and we got to stop the travel. No, but we'll kick $1 billion to her husband, some nudnik running an investment company who's going to get paid with the taxpayer dollars to do a high-speed rail line that literally nobody wants. Like, literally nobody in the state wants it. And so it got me to thinking about this Day Without an Immigrant last week, right? And this Not My President March-a-Palooza that's going to be going on today around the country. We have a bunch of ne'er-do-wells, the unemployed, the congenitally angry, etc., running around saying, Donald Trump's not my president, I don't support him, I hate him, you name it. What if we had a day without a capitalist? What if we had a day without a business? So, there are a couple stories in the press about how there are people who didn't show up for work on Thursday, who got fired by their employers because they wanted to be part of the Day Without an Immigrant Day. And of course, there's the usual sob stories, Ari Melba toast over on MSNBC, etc. AM Joyless. They're out there saying, oh, these poor people are victims, these evil business owners firing them because they didn't show up for work because they wanted to protest and be part of their First Amendment rights, right? You imagine if actual business owners, capitalists, wealth creators struck for a day and said, you know what, we're not going to open our business today. I want to send a message to the government of what you're doing to me. And we're going to shut our business for the day, and we're going to tell our employees not to come to work, and they're not getting paid for the day that we've shut. Oh my gosh, Al Sharpton would break a land speed record running to a microphone. He would trip over Chuck Schumer, who was already trying to get in front of the microphone to say, these business owners must be forced to pay these poor people who couldn't go to work because of the business owner strike. Can you visualize this all happening? I can. But what a lesson it would teach. What a lesson it would teach if a business owner said, I got 40 people. We run a bakery. We're going to shut down for the day. We're going to send a message. Look, you want to go to war with the business owners? You want to go to war with the creators? You want to go to war with the people who actually keep this country afloat? Yeah, you'll see what will happen. You know why you'd never see it, right? You understand why you'd never see that. Because business owners are responsible for more than just their bottom line. They feel a responsibility for their workers. They feel a responsibility to their clients, their customers, their vendors. They feel a responsibility to their families. They feel a responsibility to themselves. You wouldn't have businesses just shut down and stiff the workers for the day because that's not how business owners run. That's not how they roll. The vast majority, that's not how they roll. Workers, labor by and large, they think nothing of trying to send a message that way. That's the fundamental difference. It's the fundamental difference between an ideas-driven and an ideas-directed ideology, and one based on identity. Who I am, therefore I deserve this. 855-40-LAURA, 855-405-2872. Let's go out and talk to Joseph in the beautiful state of Texas. Hello, Joseph. How are you?
Brett, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for calling.
Brett, I'm really enjoying your program, and I'm sitting here thinking that, you know, you're preaching to the choir, and the people who really need to hear your comments are not hearing it. They're too busy looking at Chuck, Chris Matthews, and all of those people on MSNBC and CNN who are just filling their heads full of mess. But it's just too bad that your message isn't getting to the ears that really need to hear it.
Well, I appreciate that, Joseph. I really do. Look, I think a lot of those people do listen to Laura's show, and I think a lot of them do dip in and get a sense of what it is. The question is whether or not they'd be ready to have a straight-up conversation or a straight-up debate about these sorts of things. Many people. Now, you mentioned Chris Matthews, right? So let's think about Chris Matthews for a second. Let's think about Rachel Maddow, the high-profile personalities on MSNBC. If I recall correctly, and I do believe I do, because I watch these, I have to, it's part of my job. I got to watch all this stuff, unfortunately, right? So I got all the channels on. As I recall, Joseph, I'm watching Chris Matthews and Rachel Maddow. They were on the air on Thursday. There was no solidarity with the immigrants marching in the streets, meaning Chris Matthews and Rachel Maddow got their paycheck on Thursday night. They didn't sit it out in solidarity with the immigrants. They're not going to sit it out today with solidarity with these. You see what I'm saying, man? It's for them. It's all about getting paid. Yeah. It's about outrage for pay. And so I would caution people out there who watch, especially the people on the left, and think, oh, these people they're just too much. No. You know how you saw George the Animal Steele last week? He died, the old wrestler. He passed away last week. A lot of these guys on the left know they're wrong. They know they're wrong, but they're like WWE. You know what I'm saying? They're out there playing the villain, playing the heel because it pays well on that network. And we'll continue to sell it, Joseph. We'll continue to talk about it, Joseph. I appreciate your very kind words, and I'm glad you're out there. It's the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40 Laura, 855-405-2872. I just got this text message from a buddy of mine saying, "Do you really not believe Rachel Maddow and Chris Matthews? You really think they don't believe what they say?" No. They believe what they say, but they do it for pay. They do it for pay. They'll talk about being down for the struggle, but they're not down for the struggle. You're not going to see Chris Matthews do a 30-day sit-in in his house, eating Lego Maego waffles and protesting Donald Trump. And you're not going to see that from Rachel Maddow either, because they understand which side their bread is buttered on. That's the thing you got to keep in mind. All right, I got Jeannie and I got Tony on hold. I want y'all to stay there. I'll come to you straight ahead. Want to give you plenty of time to have your say. Plus, we've got a couple of phone lines open. If you could convey one message to the "not my president" protesters out there, like those people who are running around with the dumb signs that say "not my president, not my president," what would you, if you could tell them one thing, what would you say? And I'm not saying you come on and you say, you guys are a bunch of dummies. I'm saying trying to reason with them. What one message would you send to the people who want to march and continue to divide this country? Whether it's the Day Without an Immigrant crowd, whether it's the Not My President crowd, whether it's the Day Without a Woman crowd coming up here next month, what would you say to them? It's Brett Winterble in for Laura Ingraham, 855-40 Laura, 855-405-2872, a President's Day edition of the Laura Ingraham Show, your healthy radio addiction.
I've been waiting for this moment all my life now. All my dreams are coming true. Yeah. I've been waiting.
It is Brett Winterble in for Laura Ingraham. 855-40 Laura, 855-405-2872. People have been patiently holding on. Let me talk to Jeannie in Texas. She has a question about some of the moves President Obama put into effect before he left office. Jeannie, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm fine. I have a couple of thoughts or things to talk about, but the main one, January 3rd, when President Obama put in the 16 new departments that's related to security. I'm not sure how, but it opened up many opportunities for these leaks. These departments were not operating for 8 years, and now they are. Why can't President Trump just do an executive order or whatever and fire all those people and eliminate the possibility of security leaks. I don't understand why he can't just wipe them out, because the government wouldn't fall without them.
Well, he can, Jeannie, and unfortunately, part of what's holding President Trump back, though, is he doesn't have a full cabinet in place yet, right? So he doesn't know the full scope and scale of the damage he's got in front of him. But in terms of the national security apparatus, look, he does have his Secretary of State in there. He does have the Defense Secretary in there. He does not yet have a DNI in place, but he does have a CIA director. And he's going to need to fix these problems via an executive order. He's going to have to repair this damage, because he does have leakers in his midst, and unfortunately, they're working on an agenda that's part of that whole deep state agenda. One part of it is still being loyal to former President Obama. Another part of it is being loyal to this globalist agenda that we've seen pushed for a long time. You know, they think the UN is superior to the U.S. Constitution. They think the EU and international organizations are the way to go. It's a huge mistake. And we've learned a lot about these bureaucrats. Believe me, there's a part of me just as frustrated as you who says what President Trump ought to do is just go in there and cut loose everybody hired between 2009 and 2016. I don't know that he could do it, because you have the civil service laws protecting these people. But one thing's for sure, at least on the intelligence end of things, he's got to shake this thing up in a big, big way. Thank you for your call, Jeannie. I appreciate it. Let's go out and talk to, let me get Tony in North Carolina. Tony, what's on your mind today? Welcome to the show.
Well, what's on my mind is, you hear a lot about we can't deport these illegals because how dare you take them away from their families? How can you think of doing something like that? Well, a little over 30 years ago, when I was a young man, I was arrested and convicted for cocaine, and I went to prison for 3 years. And I was born and raised in America. I'm a citizen of this country, and there was no problem, removing me from my family for 36 months because I broke the law in America. And that's what people really need to start looking at. We have no problem removing our own citizens, our people, from their families, and to even think that these people are worth more than we, who fought for this country and did everything in our power to create the country we have. And, the whole thing about this, black and white and brown, the colors of this country are red, white, and blue. And that's what you need to understand, and that's what you want to honor if you want to come into America and come in the right way. There are so many things that are so wrong, that the Democrats, and, my parents were split. This is years ago. Right now, I'm in my upper 60s. But when I was a kid, my mother was a Republican and my father was a Democrat, but they both loved the United States of America, and I can sense the Democratic Party not being what it used to be. It is now swinging so socialistic. It's a scary thing to have that many people in this country that are against the laws, that are against the freedoms and the ability that this country has to make people successful. Just the thought that so many people want to take this away from the citizens of this country, I don't know what to do about a thing like that. I think Donald has really got his hands full. I mean, President Trump... Yeah, no, he
does. He does. Let me just say this, Tony. You made a number of very important points there. The first one being, look, you faced a penalty for a misstep, for a crime you committed. You had to be separated from your family. You had to pay that penalty, and you did pay that penalty. You were separated because of breaking the law. The same exact scenario does or should apply to people who break into the country illegally. They need to be sent back to their home country, and then they can try to do it right if they can do it right. But there's even one more difference, because if you're convicted of a felony, as you said you were, you still carry that with you for years and years. These people can be deported, and under the old system, they'd sneak right back into the country with no recriminations at all. We saw that with Kate Steinle's murderer in San Francisco. That's the maddening thing about all this. And as to the Democratic Party, oh yeah, you betcha. They have absolutely swung further and further to the left, and they're going further and further every single day. I'll have thoughts on that straight ahead as well, plus your phone calls. 855-40-LAURA. I am Brett Winterble, in for Laura Ingraham on your healthy radio addiction. The Laura
Your healthy radio addiction starts now.
Power to the people!
The Laura Ingraham Show.
I am Brett Winterble, sitting in for Laura Ingraham. Having a great time. 855-40-LAURA, 855-405-2872 for you to be heard. I open this hour with a thought on the presidency, right? Because it is President's Day. And how about a quote from John Quincy Adams? He was a president. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. Well, with that in mind, I was reading over the weekend that a number of presidential historians have gone out and rated the performance of former President Barack Obama. Ranked number 12 as the best president of all time. So he's 12th on the best presidents list. 12. Lyndon Johnson is like 10th. According to these geniuses, and I got the write-up out of the American Spectator, on the economy, President Obama ranks 8th on economic management. The 8th best president when it comes to the economy? What? Are you kidding me? Furthermore, anybody see GDP over 3% during that time period? On foreign policy, President Obama ranks 24th. As the writer over at The Spectator notes, he inherited a stable Iraq and turned it into a mess. The red line threat projected weakness. Does anybody think we're safer today in 2000 than in 2009? Leadership, right? Leadership, I don't see the exact ranking number on the leadership, but certainly a series of heavy-duty questions when it comes to the performance of former President Obama, and yet he still continues to pull the levers. Many of these protesters are out there hitting the streets and mixing it up and making trouble because they feel an allegiance to him to this very, very day. 855-40-LAURA. You got people who want to weigh in on President Trump. He had a huge rally over the weekend in Melbourne, Florida. Well attended, jam-packed, hot as the Dickens in that hangar. He went on for well over an hour, and it was an amazing spectacle to see as the regular people, the deplorables, the bitter clingers, as the left likes to call them, all queued up, all showed up to be seen. It was a look at who America is today. And you know what I saw in that crowd? I saw white people. I saw Latinos. I saw men. I saw women. I saw black people. I saw Asian people. I saw people that are us. We, the people. And when I juxtapose that gathering in Melbourne, Florida, in support of President Trump, with the protest that went on yesterday in Times Square in anticipation of the Not My President's Day holiday, and I saw people protesting the travel ban from what I call the Terror 7 conference. And I call it that because, remember, it was Washington Attorney Generic Ferguson and the Attorney General from Minnesota who made the argument on behalf of the 7 countries that were part of the travel ban, saying that they had much-needed professors and students and their dependents and their families who needed to come into the United States to make us a better country, and they needed to be able to come into Washington State and into Minnesota to be a part of the educational establishment. And we saw those people out there file the lawsuit. So I call them the Terror 7 Conference. It's the 7 countries that were part of the original ban, including, and let's not forget who they are, Syria, Iran, Iraq, Yemen, Somalia, Sudan, and Libya. I think I hit them all. Those are the Terror 7 countries. Now we we are reading reports, Fox News has it as one of them, saying, listen, the renewed travel ban is going to exempt green card holders who have already, quote, been vetted, and it's still going to focus on the Terror 7 countries. But there was that protest in Times Square yesterday, and at that protest, actual Americans, actual regular people were out there marching around with their signs, yelling, Allahu Akbar, yelling, Aloha snack bar, everywhere you turned. What are you kidding? What? Since when? I mean, if the president says it's not a Muslim travel ban, if we say it's not a Muslim travel ban, if the people defending it say it's not a Muslim travel ban, what do they get off yelling Allahu Akbar at a protest in Times Square, 40 or 50 blocks away from the World Trade Center bombing? The same weekend, they're chanting Allahu Akbar in the middle of Times Square, the same weekend that Abdel al-Rahman, the original spiritual mastermind for the World Trade Center bombing back in 93, died, left this earth, and hopefully went straight to the hot place without an asbestos robe or underwear. I mean, remember, he was the guy who tried to knock down the World Trade Center building the first time. Remember, it was because of the intransigence of Hillary Clinton's husband and his incompetence that you saw the World Trade Center attacked twice in 93 and in 2001. And it was the abject failure of that administration to prevent either of those attacks because, well, they didn't want to be seen as mean. I am Brett Winterble. I'm sitting in for Laura Ingraham. 855-40-LAURA, 855-405-2872. Follow Laura at Ingraham Angle. Let's talk to Dixie Jean, checking in from Georgia. Dixie Jean, how are you?
Hey, I'm fine. I'm going to get this off speaker. I'm so sorry. I can't.
Go right ahead. It's okay. I want you to be safe out there. Go ahead.
Yes,
Sure, go ahead.
I had a question. I had a question on Obamacare. And my husband and I were affected by this and had to pay hundreds of dollars every month just so that we wouldn't incur that penalty. And so I was wondering, with the executive order that President Trump had signed the first day, did that include where the penalties are no longer in place? I've tried to read on
Yes.
it, and nothing is ever clear. Yes, it
Yes,
did.
I have seen
wonderful.
in the reporting I saw, in some of the coverage I saw. Now listen, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm just a guy on the radio who does a talk show. But let me say this, and I would double check this, probably with the IRS. But I believe that line is being removed from the tax forms this year, where you are not going to get the penalty for not. Let me do this. You will not be penalized for lack of coverage. They have removed that part of the equation.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful, and thank you so much, and I sure appreciate your message.
Oh, thank you very much, ma'am, and be safe driving out there in the beautiful state of Georgia. It is a state unlike any other, and look, I'm partial to states that have coastline and mountains. That's all I'm going to say, okay? Even though I am here trapped behind the blue curtain of California, where we have both, and dams that are breaking down. But that's just because of the pinko commie liberals like Jerry Brown that are wrecking it. That's what that comes from. Let me jump in and talk to Dave real quick. Dave from Texas, how are you?
Hey, how you doing today?
Doing well, sir. What's on your mind today?
One, you don't ever see guys come over with the family. They don't have the kids in tow. They come by themselves. What they do is they come over here, they work tax-free, they send money back at the Fiesta stores. You can see them in there every Saturday or Sunday mornings. And then they will have the wife, pregnant or with the kids, come over and say they're coming to visit and overstay their visa. Hurry up, get pregnant again once the child is here. Then, okay, one child is all it takes for the family of 4 or 5 to stay.
Right. That's right. Chain migration. And then under the current system, that family can stay, and then they can pipeline it back and bring other relatives in under that hook. And that's the thing that's so frustrating for so many people who watch the way this plays out. In fact, one of the great advocates against this system of migration was Jeff Sessions when he was in the Senate. And he fought against this. Remember, it was Senator John McCain and Marco Rubio and Lindsey Graham and Chuck Schumer and the rest of them, that gang of 8, that were trying to weaken the system. We'll continue the discussion straight ahead. I got a couple of lines open. Ralph is in New Jersey. Stay there, Ralph. You'll be straight up next. I want to get your thoughts on your top priority right now that President Trump needs to address ASAP. What is it? Is it Obamacare repeal? Is it the tax cuts? Is it border security and the travel restrictions? Is it perhaps something else? 855-40-LAURA, 855-405-2872. Brett Winterble on the Laura Ingraham Show, your healthy radio addiction.
I'll never be your beast of burden. My back is broad.
Did you guys see Don Lemon's crack up on Friday night on CNN? There was like 9 minutes in the show to go, and one of the guests who was defending President Trump used the phrase fake news, and Don Lemon kind of gave him a yellow card, to use a soccer analogy, warned him about it, said, don't say fake news. This isn't fake news. And when the guy persisted and said fake news one more time, not only did Don Lemon didn't throw the guy off the show, he ended the show. He goes, well, that's it. We'll be back. See you Monday. And walked off the set with 7 minutes to go. You know, when you're Don Lemon, you can't have the kind of New Year's Eve Don Lemon had where he's getting all tanked and getting body piercings live on CNN and then get all, cranky when you have a guest use the phrase fake news. You can't be the fun-loving party guy on New Year's Eve live on television, half inebriated, and then get all cranky because the guy says fake news. You gotta host that show through the good times and the bad times, Don Lemon. Then on Saturday morning, AM Joy with Joy Reid on MSNBC, she freaked out and threw J.D. Hayworth off of her show because he was talking about fake news. These people are cracking up. They're out of their minds. It's fitting. It's fitting for this President's Day to continue to talk about and document the crack up. It's Brett Winterble sitting in for Laura Ingraham. 855-40-LAURA, the number to be in touch. Let's talk to Ralph. He's been patiently on hold in the Garden State. Hello, Ralph. What's going on in New Jersey?
Thank you for taking my call, Brett, and allowing me to express in your forum. And first and foremost,
Yes,
let me say this. My heart is overwhelmed with joy whenever I see in the flagpole the red, the white, and the blue. Now, I feel lucky to be living here in America legally, let me say that. And I feel lucky to be living in an exceptional, magnificent country like no other as our country is, okay? So that being said, God bless America, I would say to that.
Yes.
That rather than say amen, okay? That being said, let me say this. What is the issue regarding, this agitation and protest not my president happening today? Didn't President Trump won the election fair and square? I don't get it, okay? I don't get it with this malcontent and this, antisocial elements coming out of the woodwork now. With regard to our media, okay, they are the emperor that has no clothes. Since they don't want to give President Trump the slack, as they gave Obama, not even the benefit of the doubt. They don't have any doubt with Obama. They're riding shotgun on the man. They are embedded with the man. They are the water carrier for the man. Okay, they don't see anything wrong at all with Obama. Okay, and he is 12 as the best president. I say to that, he is zero. He is zero in my estimation or in my opinion. He has done nothing. He has not accomplished anything. What endeavor or undertaking has this man ever set out where he can show success? Where he made a difference in the lives of we the people? Can you tell me, Brett? Can you?
No, I can't, Ralph. I can't. That's the problem. See, this is the problem, okay? And I would argue The division we see in our country now, where you say you got these people who are marching around saying "not my president," that's the true legacy of the former president. He had black people mad at white people. He had white people mad at black people. He had rich people and poor people. They were mad at each other. He came into this country at a time when we were in the midst of great turmoil. We were afraid. We were worried about the economy. We were worried about these things, and he threw gasoline on the fire. Right? He threw gas, which is nuts. Ralph, let me ask you, where did you what's your native country? Your nation of birth? Is he still there? Did he leave? All right, I think he left. That's okay. That's all right. That's no problem. I'll keep talking. Ralph raises a great point. This is a country, and we have now seen a great deal of division take root. That is the legacy. That is the legacy of the former president. All right. And that was sort of the objective and the point, because as long as blue states and red states view each other with suspicion, or people in the states view each other with suspicion, it opens the pathway to so-called, bridge builder. I can bring the peace. I can bridge the gap. The best thing President Trump could do is push through these tax cuts and the repeal of Obamacare as fast as possible, because the way you drain the swamp of protesters is you put more money in people's pockets. Because if you have more money in your pockets, if you feel more confident about the economy, you're not interested in a protest. You're not interested in a march. You're interested in building your American dream. Pure and simple, plain and simple. Bonnie in the Silver State in Nevada. Hello, Bonnie. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Hi, I was just going to say to your question, what's the first thing I ought to do is the voter ID, or the next election, the next Democrat's just going to undo everything Trump just did.
Yep. It's a great point. We need the voter ID laws enforced. And you know what we need that's going to have to go hand in glove with that, Bonnie, is we need to get as many judges in seats on those federal courts as we possibly can, because we know the left's last remaining battlefield is the courthouse. They will take everything to the courts. They'll find one kooky judge who will hold for them, and then they'll go to the Ninth Circuit, and we'll get what we just got. And that's the danger. You need to create a legacy, and that legacy's got to be those federal judgeships. You ought to be filling them ASAP and tell Mitch McConnell, pull that nuclear trigger and start seating these judges, seating these appointees, and get Gorsuch on the SCOTUS 100%. It's a great point, though. Voter ID laws is vital. The franchise to vote can be diluted by people who are voting illegally. If 3 of us have a vote and somebody brings in 5 more ineligible people, we've now diluted our vote. Our vote is worth less. If you have a Lou Gehrig baseball card and somebody brings in 3 fake Lou Gehrig baseball cards, you dilute the value. You can't do it. We can't put up with it. It has to stop. Coming up in a couple of minutes, I'll continue to take your phone calls, so don't go anywhere, folks. Stay on hold. We will come to you. We're also going to check in with my very good friend, Scott Mcewen, author of American Sniper. Get his thoughts on the National Security Advisor. Brett Winterble, in for Laura Ingraham, your Healthy Radio Edition.
Hey, it's Jordan Harbinger. For the last 10 years, I've successfully helped people build their self-confidence with my Art of Charm podcast. And now, along with Art of Charm, I'm hosting a new show. It's Podcast One's latest program, The Forbes List. On the show, we talk to the Forbes editors that curate their famous and respected lists, like self-made richest people, billionaires, and highest-paid athletes. We'll get behind-the-scenes insight and information that doesn't make the print cut. It launches this week, on February 16th. So please subscribe on iTunes to the Forbes List, and don't forget to rate us, review, and share.
It is your Healthy Radio Addiction. I am Brett Winterble, in for Laura Ingraham. I am overwhelmed with the kookiness that's on display out there. watching these people protest and carry on and do their sorts of things that they're doing. And look, this is all a symptom, I think, of a healthy democracy. I know we're a constitutional republic, but of a healthy democracy. But we also have to keep in mind we are living in an unbelievably dangerous world, a crazy dangerous world. And all the protesting, all the marching, the opening of the borders, that doesn't make us any safer. And somebody who has done a lot of great work documenting the sort of sacrifices that have to be made to be at the tip of the spear, to keep us safe, to keep us secure, my very good friend, Scott Mcewen. You know him from his amazing books, including American Sniper, the story of Chris Kyle, also the Ghost Sniper series that he does, and American Commander, which so fortunate enough happened to be about Ryan Zinke. All those books are available at Amazon.com. And he watches so closely the goings-on both domestically and internationally. I want to bring him onto the show. Scott, welcome to the Laura Ingraham Show.
Hey, Brett. Thanks for having me on.
It's good to have you here. So let's start with the real threats we're seeing right now. And this threat continues to be very clearly Al-Qaeda, ISIS, the radical Islamists, Iran, etc. As they watch us in a country politically divided, though that's not so unusual, but so much hostility towards the commander-in-chief and his efforts to try to secure our borders, secure travel, ingress and egress from our country. And as we speak, we're certainly massing troops in Mosul, getting ready to take it back with the Iraqis. What do you think's going through the heads of these ISIS commanders, these Al-Qaeda commanders, Hezbollah, etc., as they look at our country, Scott?
I think it's unfortunate because any enemy, not just this enemy, but any enemy in today's world that has so much access to information immediately, both in the internet as well as other news services, can see that a divided house is nowhere near as strong as a united house. And I believe that it's unfortunate that now that we've had our election, we've picked our commander-in-chief, he's attempting to pick his commanders around him, if you will, in his cabinet, that there's so much internal fighting that's going on, I believe largely as a result of the Democratic Party as well as the national press, the mainstream media, dislike of Donald Trump. And it's really unfortunate for us as a nation. I believe it's unfortunate for the Western world, period, because we have real enemies that we need to deal with.
You know, I'm watching John McCain over the weekend. I'm watching Governor Kasich over the weekend. And, and they're doing the whole, well, Trump fighting the press, that's how dictatorships start. That's how tyranny starts. The requisite allusions to Hitler, things like that. John McCain and Lindsey Graham have since day one wanted to make this all about Putin and the Russians. The reality is Putin and the Russians are a challenge to us. They are a threat to us. They've always been a threat and a challenge to the United States, and that much is true. We were on the vanguard watching them during the Cold War when these people on the left were trying to suck up to them through Ted Kennedy, right? Trying to take out Reagan, trying to take out SDI. But the reality is, as much of a threat and a challenge as the Russians are, ISIS can light off a car bomb, God forbid, today in Times Square. The Russians are not likely to hit us with an ICBM. And we've got this weird obsession with relitigating the last election and chasing, I think, boogeymen, rather than taking on the people that want to come in and put our daughters and wives in burqas and chop off the heads of our sons.
I completely agree with you. I've never understood this Russian story from day one. If anyone they would have liked to have seen elected, I believe it would have been Clinton, not Trump, particularly in light of the fact that it's well known that as a result of her efforts as the Secretary of State, she allowed Russia to pick up massive nuclear arsenal of not weapons per se, but of nuclear-grade fuel as a result of some deals that she did as Secretary of State and got them approved. So I think that the Russians would have been much better off, if you look at it strategically, from a Clinton presidency than a Trump presidency, because Trump has made it very clear that he is going to support our allies in the West. He is going to support NATO. He expects them to contribute more to their own support, but he certainly supports them, and he supports Israel unfettered. And Israel is the one big, if you will, asset that we have in the Middle East that is slowing down the advance of Russia and the Iranians. So I just don't get it. From day one, I've never understood that story, and I understand it less even now, other than the fact it's something for them to point to as alleged inappropriate behavior on a strange level. That's what they want, is to create this confusion within ourselves as to who's our commander-in-chief. We need to stand up and get red, white, and blue now. Red and blue is over. The election is over. It's time for us to focus on what it is that the United States really has for threats. And I wholeheartedly agree with you that there's a group of people in the Middle East that are trying very, very hard to take out everything involved in the West, including us. And if they get their hands on a nuclear weapon from a country such as Iran or other sources, you can be guaranteed they'll use it.
What is he going to do about these leaks? These leaks represent, I think, to be charitable, at a minimum, a fifth column inside his administration, Scott. It appears to be having a deleterious effect on his ability to staff up, at least with White House staff. We're still in search of a national security advisor, a confirmed national security advisor. What's he going to do? How does he get tough with these jokers inside his own administration trying to undercut him?
I think what he needs to do is exactly what I've just read some stories what he's doing. They're running down the source of the leaks, both at the NSA and the CIA, which is obvious that someone within the intelligence community, and I put that in quotes, has been leaking information to other sources. And he also has issues with people, I believe, within his own staff in the White House. I believe that there's somebody in there, not per se close to him, but that has access to information that otherwise would not be accessible. And I believe they're running down those leaks as well, because there's too many things coming out of that chain of command, if you will, inside the White House, which is crucial to any presidency. Not this presidency, not a presidency of Obama, whatever. It's crucial that you have the ability to communicate within your own house without worrying that this information is going to be spread to the public in general, to the press, the Russians, anyone else that could be enemies of the United States. And I think that this problem is job one for him to ferret out who the rat is, if you will, and to get to the bottom of this, and also to secure his own comms inside his own house. This stuff at the NSA and the CIA must end. They have to understand that the administration has changed. Those who disagree with him must go. And that's just the bottom line. If they can't do their job without disagreeing with this administration in the interest of the United States, they must go, or they're going to be fired.
Visiting with Scott Mcewen, author of American Sniper, the Ghost Sniper series, and also American Commander. So with that in mind, I go back to the real hostile ground, the real dangerous spaces. And, you were very close with Chris Kyle. You have been very close with people who work in the special operators community, especially in the SEAL community. These are people you respect. These are real warriors who are willing to sacrifice everything to keep us safe, to keep us secure. And as Chris Kyle worked to Overwatch, helping to keep people alive on the battlefields of Iraq, we now know troops are massing to take back Mosul. I think it's for the third time when I think about it now, with the amount of back and forth we've had to spend in trying to liberate these places. This weekend, there were a whole lot of never Trump, we hate Trump, not my president protesters in Times Square chanting Allahu Akbar. What a juxtaposition as we have American fighters on the ground trying to liberate Mosul and fight in Syria and in other places we may never know about, while American citizens are chanting Allahu Akbar in the streets of Times Square, just 40 blocks, 50 blocks from the World Trade Center. That's got to shake you up a bit.
It does, and I and this whole idea that Trump's reticence to allow unfettered and undocumented, if you will, members of certain refugee groups to come in this country, that equates to anti-Muslim or anti-Islam, is just wrong. The bottom line is, within Islam, and they have to admit it, there is a radical terrorist group, and there is a group of people. We call them ISIS, we call them Daesh, we call them Al-Qaeda, whatever you want to call them, that are willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that their version of Islamic rule prevails in the world, not just in whatever region they're in, but in the world. And for us to not recognize that and have people saying chants such as Allahu Akbar here in the United States in support of those groups is, in my estimation, treasonous and beyond insanity, because this is a group that has killed our people and has killed Western people and has killed their own people now for almost 15 years. And this radical Islamic terrorist group that is rising within that Muslim, if you will, community is dangerous not only to the Western world, not only to the Christian world, not only to the United States, but to themselves. And it astounds me that people will not recognize this group for what they are. They're throat cutters, they're killers, they're totalitarian insanity. And we must, as a people, identify that insanity and deal with it, because for the last 8 years we've done nothing, and they have grown in power, and we've seen what has happened with ISIS, and the whole northern Iraq has fallen. Now we have to retake ground that we've already lost blood and men taking the first time. And I find it tragic, as we've just lost some people that I know in that region. And, Charles Keating III, Chuck Heavy, another friend of mine, a SEAL that was lost there recently. We are losing men in that region and women in that region. And, to try and retake what it was before in the hands of if you will, this administration or the last administration. And it's a result of missteps that took place during the Obama administration. Now we're trying to retake it again, and we're seeing opposition within the people here that are supporting the other side. And that, to me, is very, very dangerous. You can disagree with Trump's policies. That's American. You can disagree with things that take place, and you can be a part of the loyal opposition. That's the United States. But do not aid and give countenance to the enemy, because if you do, then you've stepped over the line.
Great stuff from Scott Mcewen. Pick up his work if you haven't done so yet. American Sniper, the Ghost Sniper series, and American Commander, all available at Amazon.com. And we appreciate you coming by, man, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks a lot, Brett. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, buddy. That's Scott Mcewen checking in. A lot to consider there. And for Scott, it's personal, because he does know a lot of these special operators who are being put in harm's way, having to refight fights that we already fought and we already lost, men and women fighting. Got a lot of people on hold. I'm coming to all of you next. Jack in Iowa, Donna in Texas, Judy in Texas. Stick around, folks. We're coming to you straight ahead. It's the Brett Winter. It's the Brett Winter. No, not the Brett Winter. This is the Laura Ingraham Show. Your healthy radio addiction. Back after this.
Best is yet to come the day of mine.
Brett Winterble in for Laura Ingraham. Don't forget to check out lifezet.com. Follow Laura at Ingraham Angle. It's your healthy radio addiction. Let's talk to Jack in beautiful Iowa. Hello, Jack.
In this recent meeting that the president had down in Florida, he was speaking about terrorists, and he spoke of Sweden. He said, look what's happening, look at the problem in Sweden. And immediately, the mainstream media, I call them the Democratic Party media, came out saying, they haven't had a terrorist attack, there's no terrorist attack there, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, he does know what he's talking about, because what's happened is Sweden has taken in a lot of Islamic immigrants, and they have taken over about 1/4 of Stockholm, their capital city. And in that area, they got Islamic thugs on the borders of their area. They put in Sharia law. The police won't even go in there anymore. If anybody tries to go in, they meet them at the border, at their border of the city, and say, you can't come in here. This is off limits to you. And the people that are living in that area are being terrified and terrorized by these Islamic immigrants. So the president did know what he was talking about when he said there's a problem in Sweden. It hasn't been a specific attack. It's a takeover of a third of their city.
That's right.
Have you heard
You're
of that?
right, 100% right. And let me add to this. Let me add to your point there, Jack. I appreciate the call. Sweden was in the headlines about 3 weeks ago because 2 Afghan migrants who had been welcomed in with open arms by the Swedish government, who they call themselves a humanitarian superpower, a merciful superpower. These 2 migrants were gang raping a young girl for 3 hours on Facebook Live. Facebook Live never took it down. They never stopped it. Eventually, the cops were alerted to the fact that this was happening, and they ended up going to the address. I guess they were able to figure out where this was. And yeah, I mean, I saw Chelsea Clinton with the snarkiest tweet I've ever seen over the weekend. She said, "Oh, what was the event in Sweden? Did they arrest the Bowling Green massacre perpetrators?" She should joke. Her father was president during a large number of terrorist attacks that affected the United States. The Khobar Towers, the First World Trade Center bombing. How about Tanzania and Kenya? How about the fact that we witnessed for the first time in modern history a mass shooting at a school, Columbine? I'm sorry there, Chelsea. I know you want to be a congresswoman from New York, but you have no sense of the dangers we are facing in this country. And to joke around like that proves that you are entirely unfit for office. By the way, ask your mom how she feels about Benghazi. Still an attack caused by a video? Donna is in Texas, wants to check in with us today. Line 1. Donna, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
I would like to see the president and Congress do two things other than everything else y'all have already discussed, but officially declare English as the national language and that all business with the government be done in English. All English-speaking businesses. That way it would cut off or reduce the cost of having to provide translators and printing documents in all these multi-languages. The other thing
it's a great point. Donna, it's a great point. I'm sorry I'm up against it on the clock, but that is a great point because here in California, we have hundreds of languages. I'm Brett Winterble in for Laura Ingraham. It's your healthy radio addiction, Laura Ingraham Show.